Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you don't need your job's paycheck anymore. You don't need to rush out the door, fight traffic on the highway, or sit through endless meetings just to keep money coming in. Because your money is finally working for you. That's the dream, right? But here's the kicker. It's not just a dream. It's possible. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how. We're going to break down the 5 assets that can literally replace your paycheck. 5 places where you can put your money so it starts paying you, month after month, year after year. If you're earning $80,000 a year at your job, then your goal is to have your investments earning you $80,000 a year. That way you can keep living the same lifestyle, but without having to clock in and out. Now, let me warn you up front. This isn't magic. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes money. It takes sacrifice. It takes discipline. But if you stick with it, this is absolutely possible. I'll go from the easiest asset to the most advanced. And by the end, you'll have a game plan that can change your life. Ready? Let's dive in. Asset number 1. US Treasury bonds. Think of this as the simplest, most beginner-friendly way to start earning investment income. When you buy a treasury bond, you're basically lending your money to the US government. In exchange, the government pays you interest. The pros. First, this is about as close to risk-free as it gets. Your loan is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, meaning every American taxpayer, and the Federal Reserve's ability to print money if needed. If the US government ever defaulted on its debt, the entire world economy would collapse, so your bonds are the least of your worries. Second, the interest you earn on treasuries is usually exempt from state taxes. So if you live in a high-tax state like California or New York, that's a big deal. And third, you can actually set these up so you get paid monthly. A steady paycheck, just from your investments. But there are cons too. Number 1. Your principal doesn't grow. If you lend the government $100, you'll get interest on that $100, but the 100 doesn't become 200. You just collect interest. Number 2. The returns are capped. If the rate is 4%, you get 4%. You're not going to suddenly earn 10 or 20%. That's the trade-off for low risk. And number 3. Treasuries are not FDIC insured like a savings account. You're relying on the government's promise. So how do you actually buy them? The official way is through treasurydirect.gov, but a simpler way is to invest in a treasury bond ETF like SGOV. That ETF buys short-term treasury bills and pays you the interest. Right now, the yield is around 4.7%, paid monthly. Keep in mind, the ETF price doesn't really move much. Your return is basically just the interest payments. So if you put $100,000 into SGOV, you might earn about $4,700 a year, split into monthly checks. That's a simple, stable, boring, but effective way to start replacing some of your paycheck. Asset number 2. Dividend-paying ETFs. Now we're stepping it up. A dividend is when a company earns profits and decides to share some of that cash with shareholders. For example, McDonald's. Every time people buy Big Macs and fries, McDonald's makes billions in profits. And then they share part of that with investors like you and me. If you buy a share of McDonald's, you're entitled to your cut of the dividend. Usually these are paid every 3 months. Sounds great, right? Free money. But here's the risk. If McDonald's suddenly makes bad decisions, hires a terrible CEO, or takes on too much debt, they could cut the dividend. Worse, if the company goes bankrupt, you lose both your income and your investment. That's why instead of betting everything on one company, I prefer dividend ETFs, funds that hold a whole basket of dividend-paying stocks. This spreads your risk and makes the income stream more reliable. There are 3 big categories here. First, US dividend aristocrats. These are companies that have raised their dividend every single year for 25 years or more. Think of big, reliable names. The ETF Nobel focuses on these. Right now, it yields about 2% a year. Not huge, but super steady. Second, broad US dividend ETFs. A popular one is SCHD, created by Schwab. This one casts a wider net across high-dividend US companies. The yield here is around 4%, which is pretty solid. Third, international dividend ETFs. These give you exposure to companies outside the US. Sometimes these firms are in faster-growing economies, which means they can raise dividends faster. But of course, there's more political and economic risk. Examples include VYMIN, IDV. At the moment, their yields are in the 4 to 5% range. And fourth, real estate ETFs or REIT ETFs. These funds own or finance real estate and pass the rental income to investors. VNQ is a popular one that invests in companies owning apartments, offices, and hotels. It pays about 4%. REM focuses on mortgage REITs, which can pay as high as 9 or 10%, but they're far riskier. Key lesson here: don't just chase the highest dividend. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Focus on quality companies, solid balance sheets, and a fund manager that swaps out weak firms for stronger ones. That way your income stays reliable for the long term. Asset number 3. Real estate you own. Now this is where things get interesting. This is one of my favorites, and it's been a wealth-building machine in America for generations. When you own rental property, you collect rent every month. That rent pays for your mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, property management, and ideally, leaves cash left over for you. That's your passive income stream. Let's run an example. Say you find a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Metro Detroit for $200,000. You rent it out for $2,000 a month. That's $24,000 a year in gross rent. Now subtract expenses, property taxes, insurance, repairs, management fees, and vacancy. Let's say after everything, you're left with $10,000 a year in profit. Divide that by your $200,000 investment. That's a 5% cash-on-cash return. Personally, I like at least 7%, but even at 5%, you're building income, man, owning a real, tangible asset. Remember, with stocks you just own a piece of paper. With real estate, you own the bricks, the land, the windows, something you can see and touch. And here's the kicker: taxes. Real estate has some of the most powerful tax benefits in the US Code. With depreciation, you can tell the IRS your property got 1 year older and claim thousands in deductions. In our example, the building might qualify for over $6,000 a year in depreciation write-offs. Add in other deductions like your phone, mileage, or office supplies, and you can legally reduce your taxable income even further. This is why so many wealthy Americans love real estate. They make money from rent, they get tax breaks, and the property often grows in value over time. Is it work? Absolutely. You'll need to find good deals, screen tenants, and handle repairs. But you can outsource management and still collect steady income. Asset number 4. A business. Here's where the real wealth gap happens in America. Employees earn salaries. Owners earn profits. Let's say a business makes $1 million in revenue. After paying salaries, rent, and expenses, there's $400,000 left in profit. Who gets that? The owners. That's the difference. If you're just an employee, you get a paycheck. If you're an owner, you get the paycheck and the profit. You can start a business from scratch, which is hard, but rewarding. Or you can buy an existing one, which often takes hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, upfront. Either way, business ownership is where fortunes are made. Think about all the local businesses in your neighborhood. Laundromats, car washes, restaurants, the companies. Many of them generate steady profits year after year. The owner doesn't always work inside the business. They just collect their share of the profits. But here's the warning: business is tough. Don't let TikTok gurus fool you. Starting or buying a business takes skill, patience, and a lot of sweat. The saying in business goes, how hard can it be? That question has humbled more people than anything else. Done right though, this is the asset that can completely change your financial life. Asset number 5. Peer-to-peer lending. This one is newer, but growing fast. Instead of lending money to the government, you lend directly to people or businesses. This is called private credit. Platforms now connect investors like you with borrowers who need money for personal loans, car loans, or real estate projects. In return, you collect interest, sometimes 5, 10, even 15 or 20%. Sounds amazing, right? But be careful. High returns come with high risk. If someone defaults, you could lose everything. That's why the best peer-to-peer deals are backed by collateral, ideally real estate. That way, if the borrower fails to pay, at least you have a claim on something tangible. This is a way to create another income stream. It's not my personal favorite, but it's an option some investors love. So let's recap. The 5 assets that can replace your paycheck are: treasury bonds. dividend ETFs, rental real estate, business ownership, and peer-to-peer lending. Each has its pros and cons. Each takes work, money, and discipline. But every single one can produce income that frees you from depending only on your job. The system in America isn't designed to make you rich. It's designed to keep most people just comfortable enough so they never question it. But once you understand how money really works, you see the opportunities everywhere. So here's my challenge to you. Which of these 5 assets are you going to start with? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you found this video valuable, share it with a friend, hit that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next strategy. Your paycheck doesn't have to control your life. Your money can, but only if you take action.